Well, what's up, everybody?
Yeah, I don't know.
Both of us, I found, with the new software that I use,
Yeah.
tend to sniffle directly into the microphone right when we start. First, I thought it was just you. I was like, "Fucking Chris!" Every time I turn on the thing, he sniffles. And then I looked at the two separate files, and I'm like, "Oh, we both do it."
It must be a subconscious getting
It is,
ready
yeah.
to talk.
No, I had no
thing,
idea
yeah.
that I did it.
That's funny.
I looked at the thing, and I'm like, "Oh, cool." So, welcome back, everybody, to Outside the Cinema, your weekly source for cult movie discussion. Your host, Bill and Chris, here with you again, making our way through our Patreon supporter picks this week. Two from a classic, the classic being Vishnu. The film's not necessarily his classic, but Vishnu's been a listener and friend of the show and a personal friend now for a number of years, so we doubled up his picks this week. His choices were the 1987 UK-produced Born of Fire, an interesting take on some on the religious horror movie, which is the reason why he picked it, and then Pathfinder from 1987, a film from Norway, original title Oflas. Pathfinder I was aware of because there was a pseudo remake by the director. Actually, not really a remake. A new film using many of the tropes and ideas from the original film. But I had never seen this version of it. And Born of Fire was not something I had ever heard of. I know he had said originally it would be a good pick because it's looking at a different type of religious horror movie. We see so many religious horror movies are based on Catholicism and your standard Catholic principles. This is a kind of a mix, right? I mean, it's an Islamic based idea with some Judaism kind of thrown in, and it's a little all over the place, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. That could be the story, not necessarily where they're pulling it from.
Okay.
You know, it's because, yeah.
But we'll get to it.
I don't know. It was nice to see something from a different one of the lesser known of the big three, I guess we could call them.
Yes. No, it is. We do a lot of Catholic horror films here.
Well, that's because they make a lot of them. They don't. This apparently was the first one, the first Islamic inspired horror movie. And what was this? 80s, mid 80s,
87. These are both 87.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that took a long time.
It's interesting
for Islam to get their movie.
I will say it right now. I don't have my iPad set up currently, so I don't have any trailer audio or anything. So we'll just kind of have to get right into things when we do. But that's okay because it's one less thing for me to screw up.
You'll find something new. But
I always seem to. So
yeah, but it's too hot for all that equipment to be running.
I mean, the iPad doesn't exactly run hot. So
yeah, I'm trying to help you screwing it up.
Well, today's the first day I don't have my watch on either. I'm all messed up. It's the first day it's been under 90 degrees in New England in like a week. So
yeah, I was saying to somebody where I've seen like 2 days, 3 days of like terrible heat, but never 7.
Right.
That was
and it's funny too because like I have friends that like live in California and like Arizona and these places that are like hot like this like every day. Like, we live in New England. It's not supposed to be hot like that every day. When when I'm complaining about your 90 degrees and then when you're bitching and moaning because it's 54 degrees Fahrenheit and I'm like, "Hi, it's -3 at my house."
Also, the thing too is the humidity in the air changes how heat feels.
Absolutely.
It was 85 in Vegas, I think, when my brother got married on that day, and the wedding was outside, and I was in a full suit with tie, and I didn't sweat. I wear underwear in an air-conditioned room with humidity, and I'm like, I don't know. I end up looking like a Vaseline-coated hot dog.
Gross.
Yeah.
Really gross.
Yeah. This week was bad. We have heat like DC and not as bad as Florida, but we definitely have the humidity.
Well, it's the jet stream and the way the jet stream flows. It pulls it right up to us during the summer months.
The tough part for
same reason we get the cold air during the winter.
Yeah. The tough part for me with asthma, though, is the humidity. I'm totally fine when the air doesn't feel thick when you're trying to breathe it in.
Yeah.
So
I'm right there with you, man. The humidity's the killer. I don't like the hot, but like,
yeah,
the humidity is the real breaking point. But when it gets up above 95 degrees, like it was 100 degrees in my house yesterday, it
hit 101.
Yeah, can't go anywhere. Can't go anywhere when it's like that.
No.
So, but I wasn't going anywhere anyway because I was watching these flicks that Vishnu suggested for us from our Patreon. If you are not a member of the Patreon, I highly recommend. If you like the show and you want to support the show, that is the single best way to do it. Go over to patreon.com/outsidethecinema. Sign up. A $5 monthly donation gets you access to the show weekly. Gets meaning like you get it early. You get the show archives. You get the exclusive episodes. We haven't posted an exclusive episode in a while, but we will be. I promise. Just trying to get through baseball. Baseball seems to consume my life, which I'm fine with, because I like coaching baseball, but it is a lot. But yeah, that's you get all that stuff. Plus, you can suggest films like all of our listeners have so far. It's been hit or miss, I'd say. For the most part, I'd say it's been hit or miss. But Vishnu, who has been a long time, as we said at the top, long time friend of the show since the beginning days, personal friend. Got to visit with him when I was in Toronto a couple weeks ago. It was really nice. And he's an interesting cat, man, because he likes all kinds of stuff, and he dug deep to get us a couple of flicks that were not necessarily on our radar, may or may not have been. I don't know whether Pathfinder would have ever hit our radar. I think Born of Fire might eventually, when we get to like an episode like 1600. I could have got there. But it's nice to see that he put some effort into it and didn't try to just punish us. Or, you know, like, I mean, actually, I'm saying that, but all the picks that we've had so far have been, they're inspired and interesting picks for the show. There was no, like, cover the Bratz movie. You know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, no, there's no junk movies, but that doesn't guarantee that these are any good either.
No, but I don't think that's necessarily the point. So, I mean, I guess with that said, do you, which do you want to start with?
Oh, man, I don't. Let's do the one that's not set in the hot springs in Turkey.
Okay, so Pathfinder.
That's it. That's what it's called. I couldn't remember.
The original title, Olaflas, 1987, Norwegian film directed by Nils Galp. He also directed the 2007 film Pathfinder, which is similar in themes and stories, had Carl Urban in it and Clancy Brown. Well, I think he wrote it. I don't think he directed that. I'm sorry. Marcus Nispel directed that. Yeah, it was based on his story from this film. So it's not necessarily a remake, but it definitely did take themes because he did get a writing credit on it. So either way, so this film's interesting. I'd never heard of it. I don't think I knew that other Pathfinder was related in any way, shape, or form, but this is interesting because it is I don't even know what year it'd be, like 1000 BC, 1000 AD?
Yeah, I think they were saying it was a year. It was they told the story for over 1,000 years. So
okay, that would make sense.
We're looking like 0 to 900, I guess,
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Oh, IMDb says Scandinavian villages in 1000 AD.
Okay.
Whether that's correct or not, I don't know. This one says, around the year 1000 AD, warlike people, the so-called Tijudes, roam in northern Scandinavia as they brutally kill a family in a remote area, including the parents and their little daughter. The family's teenage son, Aijin, observes the slaughter. He manages to flee from these kills and reaches a camp with other Laps whose inhabitants are worried that he's been tracked. Afraid of the murderous people, they decide to flee to the coast. The boy stays alone to avenge his family's murder. Unfortunately, they get to him before he can do anything and force him to lead them to the other Lops. He guides them, but he has a plan to destroy the barbarous people before reaching the camp. That's it in a nutshell. Not a lot going on in the story here. Not a lot of subtle nuances. It's a pretty straightforward depiction of life for people in the Scandinavian area of Norway at this time period, and the brutality that comes along with it.
Yeah.
So, With that said, I'm a big fan of Norway in general. I enjoy their metal and their mountains and snow. They were my favorite country at Epcot Center until they changed it to Frozen, which I still don't get it.
Yeah, I know you're still going on about it.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
What does it matter?
It matters for continuity. Like, I guess Rivendell is supposed to be like Norway, but it's not Norway. So why would you drop it into Norway in Epcot Center?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't give a shit.
I
really don't.
It's not the point. Point isn't whether you give a shit or not. Anyway.
No, that's the foundation of me having a point.
No, but I do care. I don't know why. I don't know why.
That's fair. As long as you don't know why.
I have no idea why I shouldn't care. I'm an adult. Anyway, the first thing with this movie that you notice right away is the cinematography and how they're able to make just a bland white wasteland look so nice.
Well, I think nothing against the cinematographer, but I think it really does look nice. Right?
The weather we've been going through recently, yeah, it definitely does.
Because they did not have any kind of color correction. They didn't try to make like the sunsets or anything look
gray.
Spectacular. It was just, this was basically a black and white movie on color film.
Yeah. Yeah. So what were your first impressions when it got going?
Oh shit. That was my first impression. What is happening? Is this Conan? Man, that looks cold. That's like all my first impressions.
Interesting.
As it went on,
you have reviewed movies for over 750 episodes.
You asked me what my first impressions were. Those are my first impressions.
It's a leading question, Christopher. It's a leading question.
My first thoughts were, isn't this how Conan the Barbarian started? Because it kind of did. And then I'm like, all right, this is a small scale story. All right. And then I got that in my head, and I'm like, all right, I know what's going on now. I got it. Once you realize it's a story basically about one guy and how he fucks up but makes good, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. It was nice to have such a simplistic story for, not that we haven't had them recently too, but like just a simple, like these barbarians come, they kill the kid's family, they try to catch him, he's fighting for survival, he goes to another place and then realizes that he may have brought this terror upon them, and then just it's just a battle for survival from that point.
Yeah, because all they really want is the supplies. They don't hang around. They're just raiders and marauders.
Right, but they're raiders and marauders that are going to kill everybody and take the stuff. They're not going to just take the stuff.
No,
there was no questions asked. There was no like, give me your supplies, or we're going to kill you. It's like they killed them, then they took their supplies.
Yeah, because if they're alive, they can come after you. You kill everybody, there's no problem. I get it. And I get it back at 1,000.
Yeah, and these barbarians are very simplistic. There's no depth to their characters.
No, they're just normal people. They don't make them out to be Thulsa Doom's dudes or anything. They're just guys.
Yeah, there's no like one special barbarian that's like so much better than everyone else. Or
no, I had a hard time actually keeping track of who was in charge because they all just kind of dressed the same, acted the same. A lot of them look the same.
Yeah, well, it came down to one guy was the only one that did the talking.
Yes,
I mean that's really it. Was the guy with the beard was the only one that did the talking.
Yeah.
So, as it kind of plays itself out, like you get a little bit of insight on how they live and the people that the other group that he ends up joining. Their uncertainty as to why he's there. Do they let him go? Do they let him leave? But then they realize that it doesn't matter whether they banish him because they're just going to follow him to the place anyway.
Yep.
So they realize they got to move. They're like, well, we got to go. These guys are going to come and get us. And he's like, well, I think I was able to hide my tracks well enough. And they're like, nah, these guys are going to find us. So there's kind of like a little bit of a power struggle within this tribe. But it doesn't really overtake everything.
No, because they're not really dicks about it. Not like you'd expect. like there's this overwhelming, fear of these people that they have to, keep themselves safe from.
Yeah.
So whatever power struggle really is like a third level story in this whole thing, but it's still going on and it's still important. But it's not played for drama like you would normally see it played that way. You know what I mean? It was all real, kind of like how everybody else, how it would be in real life. No dramatic anything, just, yeah. It was all, this was aside from a couple of things, this was like kind of realistic.
Well, yeah, and it's realistic in pretty much every way it's presented.
Yeah.
Even to the point where when what's the character's name? Eigen kind of starts to get he gets the hots for one of the girls in the tribe.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when he's like, well, I'll stay and I'll protect, I'll protect everyone. I'll stay. So it's like he's making the chivalrous move because he's like, I kind of doom these people, but at the same time, he's like, well, I'm going to try to impress this girl at the same time.
Right. And you also have to think, too, unspoken, if he doesn't ally himself with somebody, he's going to die. Mm-hmm. Because he's got he doesn't have a pool to pull from. Like, he'd have to get his wood. He'd have to hunt. He'd have to build his hut. He'd have to do all this on his own. And that's too much. He would be dead from exposure before he got halfway through.
Right.
So, and it really does. It feels almost like you could look at his search for a new tribe as like him growing up, becoming a man, and starting his own family, because he's choosing his family at this point, which is kind of what you do when you get married. It's interesting. It's more interesting that talking about it now. I'm realizing more. I'm realizing I saw more than what I thought I did when I watched it.
Right. Well, I mean, the movie's smart in the way it kind of presents itself too, because the pelts, they're like, they're dressed all in black, so they pop off the screen when you see them because everything is white.
Right, and they don't care if people see them. So
no, and their brutality is shown very early when they kill the little girl. And the movie's brutal too, the way it's depicted. So, but it's reaffirmed again when they're having like a standoff, and he's like, "No, listen." He's like, they're threatening to kill one. They killed, so he stays back at the camp, but a few of the other group leaders and men stay back at the camp too to kind of help him. And they all get killed except for one, and he's hiding. And then the one they're torturing the other one to be like, where did they go? Tell us where they went. And he basically they're like, well, we're gonna kill you if you don't tell us. So then Iden steps out and he's like, hey, I'll show you the way. I know where they went as long as you spare him. And they're like, okay. So he's able to sneak a knife to his friend so that he can untie himself after they leave.
Yeah, but that's how the friend knew he wasn't really betraying them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the brutality of these guys, you see it because before they leave, they kill him anyway.
Yeah.
For no reason. They had no real reason to kill him.
I mean, the only reason really is no witnesses, no revenge. So,
and the thing, and like, he was very injured. They'd already stabbed him once, and they beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
So he wasn't like he was getting up and running away or anything like that. They just killed him just cause.
Yeah. It's one less person to worry about stabbing you in the back.
Exactly. Yeah. So as they're kind of moving their way through, we get some shots of them. So the group is settled on the beach. They're protected by the mountains. They meet up with some of the other members of the tribe that had moved there previously. They're very worried. They're like, oh well, are they going to follow you through the mountains? And they're like, there's no way they would make it through the mountains. Which kind of leads us to the next point, where in leading them through the mountains, and you come to realize, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but sorry. He that was his plan the whole time. He's like, oh, I'll lead you, but he knows he's going to lead them through the mountains, and the chances of them making it through the mountains alive it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and his plan was effective, but it was messy.
Very.
And it was really interesting to see. Now, there is one kind of iffy plot point here. Like, how would he know how to lead them through the mountains? He's never been there.
I took it as he just knows there's no way they're making it through the mountains.
Oh, he was on a death march, is what you're
He
saying.
knew. Yeah, he knew.
Okay,
He knew.
okay.
Well, they said too. They're like, oh, he led them that way purposely, and he sacrificed himself to protect us.
Okay. All right, I missed that line. All right.
Yeah, it was just a quick. I mean, it was just a quick. But that's all this movie needed. This movie was simple. It presented itself exactly what it was. There was no supernatural elements. There was no anything else going on. It was and it was that kind of felt nice.
What I really liked was when the girl, there was just a random girl, and she's like, "Hey, I saw light on the mountain for a second," and not a single one of them went, "Girl, you crazy." They all went, "Where? Where did you see it?"
Like,
because they're not fucking around.
No, you can't take any chances.
I really appreciate a group of people that are all on the same page.
Absolutely.
That was really nice.
Yeah, it worked well.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't think there's a whole lot more we can say about it, right? I mean,
no, it's a bare bones movie. It's all about the people and where it's filmed. And the situations they get in, and if you say much more, like you just.
Well then, Christopher, do you recommend, and what is your grade for Pathfinder?
What's it to you?
I asked.
No. I will recommend this, but I am gonna preface it a little bit by saying that it's not a fast moving film.
No.
And it really is like watching a bunch of people figure stuff out in real time. I don't know if I was in the right mood to watch either of these movies, because I didn't want to watch I didn't want to do anything. I actually went into work a little bit early, 2 of the days this week because it was so hot. So I'm gonna give it a B+ because it's really good. Tells a story that I didn't expect, and was filmed on location. Like, maybe there's a scene in a hut that was filmed in a studio somewhere, but no, this was all outside. It looked grueling.
Yeah, it did.
It really felt like they slept in those huts. But anyway. Yeah, I'll recommend and give it a B+.
B+, okay. It's a high grade.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna recommend it also. To kind of couple with what you said, it's not terribly exciting. The parts that are brutal for sure. But there's not a lot of action going on. We have maybe 3 or 4 small action sets, and then the big one at the end. But it all works. It all works for what they're trying to do. The biggest issue is, despite all that, it's not terribly exciting. Even boring at points, I would say. But But it's not terribly long. It runs an hour and 26 minutes or so. It's not long at all. It's anything sub 90 minutes at this point is a breeze. And it doesn't feel like it moves too slowly. It works. Right. It's not for everybody, I don't think.
No, if it was an hour 40, I think you would have had the possibility of an unnecessary expansion of the love story or something.
That was my worry as I was watching, is that if they were going to take the love story and start to make the love story a lot bigger than it actually was, or bigger.
Yeah, no, I really like how she's like, that's the guy. He's not part of this tribe. I'm not related to him. I'm gonna fuck his brains out. And like nobody contested him with her.
No, it's true.
You know?
That's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So my grade will be, I'm going to go a little lower than you. I'm going to give it a B-. But it's recommended, I think. If it sounds like it's up your alley and you like it, it's not even necessarily a slow burn. It's just not a lot going on.
But not in a bad way.
Right, correct. It was kind of nice to be able to kind of just turn the brain off and just be like, okay, there's not a whole lot going on here. I don't have to worry about a lot of this bullshit. So
yeah,
cool, sweet. So that also, if you want to watch Pathfinder in the U.S., it is available on the Criterion channel, and then you can also purchase it on Amazon, I believe, probably around the world. Okay, Born of Fire, 1987. This one is not really readily available anywhere to stream. You have to purchase a copy of it or find it through other means. This is directed by Jamil Delhavi. I don't know much about Jamil. I'd never heard his name before this. Seven Lucky Gods, Infinite Justice, Godforsaken, Gina. So he's worked on a number. He's got a number of things here. Mostly, it looks like a lot of his stuff that he did was as a producer.
Okay.
Blood Money producer. Let's get down to his directorial efforts here. And director. Okay. Not a lot. 12 directing credits.
Okay.
And Born of Fire was one of his earlier works. It looks like he worked on a film called The Blood Hussein in 1980, Tower of Silence in 75. Not familiar with a lot of this stuff. Not familiar with it. So, all right. Well, so Born of Fire, musician searches for the master flautist, the supernatural creature who is planning to blow up the world. Starring Peter Firth, Susan Crowley, Stefan Kalipia, and Orla Peterson. I'd never heard of this.
I think I've heard the title. The title sounded very familiar. But
maybe
that could be for
maybe I had
some other reason. I don't know.
Well, I kept confusing with Eyes of Fire,
okay.
which we covered not that long ago.
Yep.
So, I mean, to put it simply, the film is really this kind of just like surreal. It's not as surreal as it likes to think it is. Like, it's definitely presented like it's a surrealist film, but it's not really. It's actually pretty standard. But you go into this mythology, this Arabic mythology that is a little convoluted as it starts, but it basically boils down to that they see this eclipse. So the opening scene, which was a great opening scene, by the way, is this eclipse, but the eclipse is like a skull overshadowing the moon, or overshadowing the sun. And you have Susan Crowley's character, she's like an astronomer. She sees this, and she's like, there's something weird going on. Because, skull in the sky, right?
Yeah, no, that's not that. You just like take that in stride,
right? But then she.
I guess they're advertising for the Punisher again. Okay.
I love all those memes that have been going around of like the guys with the Punisher skull in the truck, and it was like never read an issue. Like,
oh yeah, I'm part of a group on Facebook that's like it's all about posting pictures of trucks and stuff with Punisher skulls on them. I found a Bentley, a picture of a Bentley with a Punisher logo in the car logo on the front of the grill.
Yeah.
So whatever symbol was in there, they popped it out and put a Punisher skull in there. A Bentley. I had just as a quick aside, I had Punisher t-shirts when I was little. I'm talking like 16, 17 years old, but we're also talking like late 80s, early 90s. And I stopped wearing them a long time ago. Probably because I saw who was wearing them.
Right. I just love it. Supports the sticker. Never read it.
Oh, yeah.
Never read an issue.
Yep.
I saw the Netflix show.
What doesn't make sense to me, all these people that love cops and are Republicans don't understand just the basics of the character.
No, they don't.
The Punisher is doing what the cops can't or won't do.
Every time I see a dude ride by on a Harley with his like Hell's Angels vest or whatever, but like the Blue Lives Matter flag hanging off it, it's like,
yeah.
You're an outlaw biker. Like, you
go suck another boot, you fucking idiot.
Unbelievable. Anyway, back to Born of Fire.
My favorite is the Blue Lives Punisher skull.
I've never even seen that.
It's the American flag over the what's it called there, the skull. So like it's the stars and stripes on the skull, and then it's just got one of the blue stripes on it, and it's the Punisher skull, and it's the most mixed message I've ever seen. It would be like Ghislaine Maxwell against child rape.
Yeah. All right.
That shit don't make sense either. Because she's a fucking piece of shit that should die. Anyway, go ahead. What's this movie about?
It's about a dormant volcano erupting in Turkey. That's what gets it all going. There's the skull over the sun. There's a explosion that creates a volcanic eruption against a volcano that had been hadn't erupted in thousands of years. There's a musician that's played by Peter Firth. He's got this melody in his head that he can't get out. Then we have Susan Crowley, who plays the astronomer. She observes all this weird stuff. And I don't remember how even she goes to like his concert.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
how
she
did
shows
she know,
up there.
Yeah, like we don't know why she showed up there, right? I didn't miss that. She just kind of showed up there. And I think she knew his father is what it was, or she knew his father's music.
Yeah.
But I don't know how she made the connection. Did she hear music? She said, did she hear the melody? Is that what it was? She heard the melody while there was the skull thing?
I'm gonna say I don't know.
That's a fair assessment because I'm not positive myself. But apparently these things happening, the volcano, the sun being blocked out, is said to be the start of this end of the world, this Arabic mythological end of the world. She goes to him, and then he goes to visit his mother, and she's on her deathbed. The mother tells him the story about the master musician, who is this mysterious being that lives in Turkey, that knew his father. I don't think she says he outright killed the father, but it's kind of implied that your father went to see him and never came home. He was a musician also. He never returned. So now the astronomer and the flautist decide they're going to take off for Turkey. They want to find out what happened to his father, and they want to basically find this master musician to find out exactly what is going on with the end of the world story that's coming.
Yeah.
We then take a nice little deep dive into the mythology of the jinns, the shaitans. There's the story how they were born of air and fire, and there's all these different things that were going on in his life that brought him to Turkey, and what was happening was going to make him go crazy, and if you're not careful, you're going to go crazy too, and then a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of information, right?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar, outside of the basic mythology of the jinn. I'm not familiar with this mythology at all. I don't know what is following true mythology. I don't know what is following, whether it's made up. Do you have a better handle on this than me?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I think, for to be honest, I think some of this was lost on me.
Yeah, me too. And I think a lot of it was lost on Peter Firth, too. He seemed to be stumbling his way through this, not knowing what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What this movie does very well is present the land to you. The cinematography, the way it's shot, the look, the salt baths, the fire in the mountains, then the green stuff, by the waterfalls. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Honestly, I read a review of this that said basically it could be presented as a silent film and be just as effective because the dialogue is so confusing at points in it that it doesn't really help you kind of figure out exactly what's going on at any point.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at a couple of the notes that I typed down here while I was watching it, and just there's not really much of an explanation for any of the stuff that's happening. There's a lot of different references back to the history and the mythology they're trying to present, but the problem is he doesn't bother to clear anything up for you.
Right. Okay. So I didn't just miss stuff. I just
no, you didn't. You didn't.
Let me keep talking. Don't say anything because I can't hear you. So I didn't miss stuff. It just there we go. It just wasn't presented in a normal narrative film kind of way.
Not even that it wasn't. It just wasn't presented.
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. So as I was watching it, I started to get that feeling of like I'm appreciating what I'm watching, but I don't think this is for me.
Right.
Because
I really felt
I don't know enough.
I really felt like this would work best as a book.
Was it a book first?
No,
It was not.
I don't think so. I looked it up. It says screenplay and story. The story was by the director.
Yep.
And the screenplay was by Rafiq Abdullah,
Okay.
who wrote Born of Fire and the Blood of Hussein back in 1980.
Yes. Yeah, I'm curious if there's a little bit more to it, like a director's cut or something.
Oh, the other movie this guy wrote is a dramatic depiction of the life of Hussein with allegorical references to the history of the Prophet Muhammad and his descendants. It is prophesied that young Hussein will one day lead the impoverished masses to a better life. It's his brother Hassan, however, who gains in prominence, blah, blah, blah. So he's writing stuff based on where he's from. Write what you
Makes
know.
sense.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. No, and like I said, this film's got some really strong stuff going on in it with the way it looks. The master musician, when we meet him, he is certifiably creepy because he doesn't wear any clothes and he's burned over his entire body.
He reminded me of a normally developed version of the bad guy from Baskin.
Okay, yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
One of the other reviews I looked at called this a flat episode of Doctor Who, and I definitely was like, I can get that feeling.
All right, I've been watching Doctor Who since '77, and I have to agree. It definitely could have been less nudity, but yes.
Yeah, I feel like with the fact that he was really pushing to tell a story of his own, of his own home and using the mythology of his own home, which I love and I completely appreciate. It was just lost on me. He didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he should have. That's not the point. I'm not saying that he should have dumbed it down.
No.
It's his movie and he doesn't have to do anything that he doesn't want to do.
Right, and if we want to understand it, it's on us.
Right. And
that's
like
fair.
And I'm not hating on it by saying that
Right,
I didn't understand it. He should have made it more simple. I'm just saying that I didn't get it. Nothing wrong with that. But it just wasn't, it wasn't presented in a way that a mass audience is going to be able to take it in.
Yeah. And he
I'd be
made that
curious,
choice. I think he made that choice, like, knowingly.
I think so too.
Right? Yeah.
I think so too. And I really liked a lot of the ideas that were going on. And I was actually kind of bummed that I wasn't able to get a little bit more meat out of it because I wasn't really following what was happening. Like the offspring, the man with the small man that was couldn't walk and he
the silent one.
The silent one. Like there was a story that the father had an affair and then he was the offspring, and then there was the woman with the burned arm who was supposed to be the jilted lover, I believe. But the idea that they're like, oh well, this guy, the master flautist, is gonna play this song and he's gonna bring the end of the world. And I'm like, why doesn't he just do it then? Like, I couldn't figure out why. Like, what was everyone waiting for? They weren't like, it wasn't like a thing where they were like, oh, the planets need to be aligned. It can only be played on the 12th hour of the 12th day of the 12th year. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
like,
love that. Fucking do it.
I'm like, you're gonna bring it into the world, but like, what are you waiting for?
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Maybe I missed it. And again, maybe I missed it. I don't know.
That's possible. That is possible. But that is also a very good question. Why didn't he just fucking do it? Instead, he's running around his cave with his skull in his hand and, like, come on.
Yeah, the skull
Some of the reviews I read said the first half is amazing and the second half he lost the thread.
I was on board. Until, probably about the halfway point. And I was just kind of like, where are we going? What are we doing? Like, you're telling me that they got to save the world from this guy, but we don't know exactly what he's going to do, or, like, does he have to have a specific flute to use, or, like, and also the idea of a master flautist being the guy that's going to save the world, like,
that's
I don't know about
probably from somewhere in the religion.
Maybe. And again, lost on me. No hate on it, just lost. On
Yeah,
me.
yeah. I mean, people do say why do we like, Christian based horror so much? I mean, and it really is a large portion of it is that's what we were raised as, with that mythology. So like
I'm still very interested by other.
Oh no, I'm not
the
saying
Jewish horror
not
that we've
interested.
watched, like the Dybbuk stuff. Like I'm fascinated by that. Like
I'm fascinated that
necessarily...
some of those got made.
Yeah, the Dybbuk. What was it? The Dybbuk box eats Chris Carter or whatever it was.
Yeah.
What was the,
oh my God.
But like I'm fascinated by that, and I don't really. I guess maybe I know a little bit more about Judaism than I do about the Arabic beliefs in this. But not necessarily. But like I think maybe that stuff is just easier to digest. I don't know. I definitely didn't dislike this, but I can't necessarily say that I liked it either.
Yeah. It really felt like a series of paintings that somebody wrote a story around.
Night Gallery? Rockstarian's Night Gallery, where they like...
Maybe, but like if you're walking through a gallery in a museum and you see like the Turkish waters, which are beautiful, by the way. I totally get why they filmed there. But then you walk past a dude playing a flute, and a painting of a dude in a cave, or a sculpture of something, and you're like, hey, I can make a story out of that. That's sort of how it feels. I don't know.
Interesting. I just don't know. What I'm bouncing around in my head now is I'm trying to think, as we're almost going to grade it. What's bouncing around in my head is like, I'll just include it here, so I'll let you do your part. Do you recommend, and what's your grade for Born of Fire?
I don't know. I don't know if I can recommend this because it looks really nice, but there is a whole lot of this confused blonde guy running around Turkey, trying to blow into stuff. No, I'm kidding. Because he plays the flute.
You're not wrong.
But I don't know. Like I said in the beginning, I didn't want to watch anything all week. There was one point I just sat there in the cold with the TV on just the menu screen, and I'm like, I don't care. So I may not have been in the best mood to watch this, but I really did try. But yeah, it is entirely possible this is just completely lost on me, and I just watched it for the basic story and the locations.
Right.
So a lot of this was lost on me. I don't know. I can't recommend this because honestly, I'm not 100% on what I would be recommending.
Right.
But I'm going to give it a B- because I did think that it looked really beautiful. They really did. For a moderately sized budgeted movie, I think they did a pretty good job, but I didn't follow the whole thing, not as much as I get from other stuff, other religious movies.
Fair.
I don't know. I feel bad about this one, but I can't really go into that much because I don't have the backup.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you in terms of like, I'm having a hard time recommending it. I think if this type of mythology and this religious aspect that's being presented in this is something that you're familiar with, and you definitely, have an interest in it, I think you're going to find this far more interesting than somebody that doesn't have even a real basic understanding of it.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to recommend it based on how exclusive I think it is, how exclusive the viewership for this would be, and that would fully understand and appreciate it.
Yeah.
With that said, as the professional reviewer, though, it has a lot of merits to it. It's shot unbelievable. It looks unreal. The locations are unreal. I think the acting, Peter Firth is giving it his all. The master flautist guy is doing as best he can, despite being naked the whole time.
Yeah. And
So,
covered with what looked like super glue and tissue paper. Not super glue, Elmer's glue.
yeah.
He had all body burn old age makeup on.
Yeah, it was gross. So, and it's not a terribly exciting film either. There's not really like a lot of like action going on. So not only am I not really understanding it, but I'm also not like being like, well, I don't understand what's going on, but man, it's keeping my interest because there's all these fight scenes and all this crazy stuff going on. It's not really that type of film, despite something that's supposed to be like bringing on the end of the world. So I kind of wrestled with that too. So I'm gonna grade it a C, right down the middle, because I think there was stuff in it that was good and I really liked it, but I can't tell how good a film it is because I'm not sure at that halfway point if my enjoyment tapered because I didn't understand what was going on, or my enjoyment tapered because the second half of the film is just bad.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So I'm going to give it a C. Plain and
Fair.
simple. I'm glad I watched it. Definitely glad I watched it. And I think in terms of a pick, I think it's a good pick for the show. But it's a weird one for me. It's been a long time since I've had one that I truly I just don't really get what's happening here.
Yeah. And I think flutes and the end of the world aren't an exclusive thing to this. As I'm watching it, I remembered that Lovecraft's whole thing, he's got Azathoth, who's the creator, right? And he's asleep. And he's lulled to sleep by his demons that play flutes and keep him asleep. And if they ever stop playing, he'll wake up and all existence will blink out. Because we're just his dream. So I was thinking it'd be something like that, like the flute would wake something up in the volcano or something. I guess I just was expecting a huge explanation about it, and it just never happened.
No, it was no, and then the culmination of everything was to me just a letdown. Like it was just a letdown.
I mean, I actually can kind of appreciate that to a certain degree, like because most movies end with a huge big battle and a whole thing, and it's always a fist fight. And this was just like, I beat the devil with my fiddle, and he's gone. And sometimes that's how it is. Not in movies, though, because it's weird, and then we end up like this.
Justin Tenacious D records. So there you go. That is Born of Fire. You can purchase a copy of it on Amazon and a number of other places. It's not currently included in any streaming services, but it's out there if you do want to check it out. So those are Vishnu's picks from the Patreon. Of course, if you want to send us picks, you can go to patreon.com/outsidethecinema. Join up. Send us the picks. All right. Are you ready for this, Chris? Because we gave Joe the Resident Evil.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm playing it off of my phone. Hopefully everything's connected properly. Let's find out what happens when I hit the button.
Well, hello, Bill. Hello, Chris. And hello, OTC Nation. It's your boy Joe here, and this week Bill took me to Raccoon City, because he made me start the Resident Evil franchise. I'm about to use a $5 word, so bear with me for a moment. Resident Evil, for me, personally, has always been kind of a, $5 word alert, dichotomy. On one hand, to the best of my memory, I cannot remember anyone ever saying anything remotely positive about a Resident Evil movie. On the other hand, they were obviously popular because they made a big old bunch of these things. There's 6 movies in the canon that Bill wants me to watch, and at least another handful of animated films. So, obviously, people were consuming this IP like certain comedy spin-off franchise zombies consume brains. I think that... I don't know. I think it's a little too easy and dismissive to say the tried and true line of, well, there's a lot of idiots out there, and just accuse the masses of being mindless troglodytes, while you yourself are a paragon of taste and virtue. Why, oh why can't the unwashed simpletons see that what they like is fluff and drivel, and what I like is cultured and nuanced? It's like George Carlin's old bit on how your shit is stuff and their stuff is shit.
Yep.
I think at some point a lot of us are guilty of this kind of judgment. I certainly have been many times.
Yeah.
And no mistake,
me too.
my high horse is still around here somewhere, pretty easily accessible, and sometimes I start to get on it. The point I'm trying to make is, even if all of that were true, the world is full of uncultured idiots who are too stupid to appreciate the actually cool shit that you like. It still doesn't matter, because you come off as a snob judging them for it, and the world has bigger problems. Everything I just said was mostly a way for me to psych myself up to watch a series of movies that I employed a pretty negative mentality with. Like, sure, I was trying to point out how cult film fans tend to be self-righteous snobs about what we like versus mainstream stuff. But mostly it was just me gearing up for 6 weeks of a movie series that I probably judged too harshly over a decade ago. Never stop growing, everyone. Let's get into it. Spoiler alert, this is the only Resident Evil movie that I've seen. However, in the theater in 2002 was the only time I've seen this, and I had a whole ass career in professional wrestling in the time in between, and got at least 2 to 3 concussions. So apart from, number one, Mila Jovovich is hotter than Western Europe currently is in this movie. 2, I saw this with my homie Chris, who has since passed away, and that made me a bit sad. And 3, I kind of liked the Slipknot song they did for the soundtrack. So, basically this is all new to me again. Also, if the first 15 minutes of this movie is any indication, this is going to be a short fucking review because, got me good and juiced up at this point. Good sci-fi action shit. I love that. Holy shit, they just had a great touch moment, bringing you up to speed. Corporate offices get butt-fucked by someone stealing what is obviously the zombie virus. All hell breaks loose. Mila Jovovich wakes up in a big empty house, and before she can figure out what's going on, a SWAT team breaks in, and now they're all headed into the massive underground facility of an obviously evil corporation. Like there's any other kind. Right. Before the SWAT team showed up, she saw a picture of her and a dude that they find in the train at one point, and it's on their wedding day. Like, she sees him, she recognizes him, and all that has the flashback. And she takes her ring off, and inscribed inside of it, it reads property of the Umbrella Corporation. On the inside of her wedding ring. That is such a good, small little thing to do to establish how evil the Umbrella Corporation is. Chef's kiss on that one. The entire rest of the movie is completely by the book. The SWAT team doing SWAT things, and everyone has a big personality. And let's be honest, it might as well be aliens. The guy who isn't who he says he is might be a good guy, might be a bad guy, but you don't know till the end. The only difference here is that there's 2 of them. There's even a feisty Latina who is more badass than everyone else in the group put together, but she sacrifices herself to save the group. Evil corporation uses people, as evil corporations do. Listen. This is just aliens with zombies instead of xenomorphs. Now, here's the catch. This never needed to be anything other than that, and if you're going to copy a movie for your movie, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Aliens. You know what I'm saying? I am in no way comparing this to Aliens, because I think Aliens is one of the greatest films ever made. However, at least the Resident Evil crew was kind enough to keep it under the 2-hour mark. That's probably the only thing this thing has over Aliens. Along with the good, they also share the bad with Aliens. For instance, okay, so you've got to take these utility access tunnels to get from one end of the facility to the other. Great. You know what I don't need? I don't need that to be in real time. I'm fighting with my ADHD over here, and I guarantee you that's more of a struggle than you have with Larry from accounting, who's now risen from the dead and wants to eat your spleen. I will give them this. The movie plays out like the first couple games, where it keeps kind of ramping up at just the right intervals, and everything feels like a level here. Bottom line, as I mentioned at the beginning, I don't remember much about this movie, but even with that, this was so much better than I remembered, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Here's the thing. Actually, before the thing, here's the thing. I know I didn't really get into the story or the plot here, but you've either seen this or you've seen Aliens, so you've seen it. I don't need to do that. Here's the thing now. The good. Mila Jovovich carries this motherfucker on her back like Master Blaster, and I don't think this movie would ever have succeeded without her. Also, any movie that takes this big of an anti-corporation stance is okay by me. the bad. Whew, the CGI. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Tap dancing Christ, the CGI. I've seen better CGI in a commercial for the General's car insurance. Resident Evil's going to get a solid B+. I really enjoyed this. And it's actually making me look forward to next week when Bill's going to make me watch Resident Evil Apocalypse. So, fuck me, right? I guess until then, be good, everyone.
I still remember really enjoying the first one. I don't really remember watching a lot of the other ones.
Part 2 is probably the closest to the garbage that we watch, like a Critical Madness. Like, I have an idea for a movie, let's just make it. I have no budget. This felt, part 2 feels like a low budget movie that somehow snuck a little extra money in there.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
It's not great. The story is so basic. The characters are one-dimensional, but funny at times when they need to be. It's just a giant bunch of set pieces that look cool. And I was fine with that. It's not a great movie. It's not a great series, but I do go back to it just because it's brainless. That was not intended.
Right. I don't know. I think a lot of people's issues with these films stem from the fact that they sway so far from what the game series was. And I think a lot of people wanted to see those stories is what it was. It wasn't even so much that the stuff that they were doing in the Resident Evil films was so bad. It was that, hey, I've been playing like Resident Evil since I was 12. I want to see those stories.
Right.
So I don't know. What I do know is Scott is here for another segment this week.
Yeah, in 85, I would have been 11, right?
Well, were you born in 1974?
No.
Then you would not have been 11.
Math is hard.
It is.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. With Reverend Scott.
Showgirls is like the ultimate cult film.
Oh, you're going to hear that a lot, I think.
Hey there, Bill and Chris. And you know who this is.
I don't even remember his name. That's how long ago it was.
It's been a week.
And also how little I care.
This is Reverend Scott. And this is Holy Shit.
I don't like this.
And I have a wild Indian-made Tollywood movie to talk about today. But first, how about some grades of your reviews from last week? What were those movies you watched, Chris?
It was Yentl and New Moon.
Yes.
Sorry to break it to you, but the movies were Fright Night and Guns Akimbo.
Fine. Choose two movies that I don't like. See if I care.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Bill, I'll let you pick all the movies for the next few shows.
Yeah, and then get ready for 6 months of Italian Polizia sex comedies.
God, I hope so. Anyway, first we're going to talk about Fright Night, Bill's second favorite movie after Showgirls.
Forget it and forget you.
Tell us about the plot.
This is Rear Window.
Well, yeah, which is, in essence, The Boy Who Cries Wolf.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, come on now. Let's get a little more specific here.
He's trying to slide his hand up her ribs to the boobies, and she says no, and he stops.
Okay.
Right?
And then verbally shames her.
Well, he says it's been a year, come on. But he doesn't try to take advantage of her. He's voicing
But did
his...
he not try to take advantage of her because the neighbor was moving a coffin into the basement?
Well, there's that.
I think that's too specific. And like I said, this is Bill's second favorite movie, but it's not without its faults, of course. Bill's biggest issue with Fright Night was the complete lack of realism.
He's a vampire. Well, no, it's
Yeah.
not, because that's not real.
I hear you, man. But at the end of the day, Bill loved Fright Night and is glad he saw it.
So I didn't see Fright Night upon its release. I did see it a few years later. Man, that was a heavy Boston accent. I did see it a few years later there.
Any final thoughts on Fright Night, Bill?
Fucking wicked awesome, bro.
So I give Fright Night a B, and I give the review a B+.
He's a vampire.
What should we do next, Chris?
We should talk about Harry Potter and the Deadly Hollow Points.
Okay, we'll start with a bit from the trailer for this flick.
All right, so Guns Akimbo is... No, stop! Stop! What is happening? What is happening?
I don't know.
So Guns Akimbo stars Daniel Radcliffe. It's kind of like an open-world Running Man movie, and that's all I have to say about it.
We should continue on with more of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Firing Indiscriminately. There we go. There's another one.
Yes.
You know, I'm fairly certain that Chris thinks this is an actual Harry Potter sequel, and Bill was not amused by that.
He's got that wand, though.
Not in this movie.
Yeah, he does. He has.
He could have used it anyway because he's got guns for hands.
I was gonna.
I've actually seen this movie, and it's not bad. I mean, it's not great, but I do love Samara Weaving. I give Guns Akimbo a B-, and I give the review a B. There's not much more to say about it. Unless you have more Harry Potter references, Chris?
Oh, no, I was pretty much done.
Good, because I wanted to get to talking about this insane 3-hour and 5-minute long Tollywood movie that I saw the other day on your boy Netflix called RRR. Tollywood is kind of like Bollywood, only it's Indian or Hindi. I'm not really knowledgeable about other cultures, but I don't think it's like Dollywood. And I'm probably going to screw up most of these names, but I'll give it a shot. As for the title, RRR, it's the R initials from the director, S.S. Rajamouli, and the two main actors of the film, Ram Chaharan and Rama Rao. I probably screwed up all those, but, I gave it a shot. Think of it as an Indian 3 the hard way, one of the three being a legendary Indian director who made an epic action film surrounding two real-life men who were both legendary in Indian culture. There's Komaram Bahim and Rama Raju. Back in 1920, a British tyrannical leader kidnaps this little Indian girl named Molly. The tiger wrestling Superman named Bahim is sent to Delhi to get her back via any means necessary. Meanwhile, word of a mysterious man coming to retrieve Molly reaches the British, but they don't even know his name or what he looks like. They assign an Indian soldier, Rama Raju, to go undercover among the people and fight to stop Bahim. Not knowing who each other is, Rama and Bahim meet and befriend each other despite secretly having completely opposing goals. You might be thinking,
You dumbass. How do you not know?
Yeah.
but it works out very well in the film. But that's really only the first 90 minutes of the runtime. Getting to the British compound to get Molly back is really only the beginning. That's when things really start to ramp up with many twists and turns. The more you find out about Rama Raju's background with the British and being a soldier, the more you find out that things aren't exactly what they appear, and it makes his friendship with Bahim even more complex. Visually, this film looks amazing. The 4K HDR aspect of the film is just mind-blowing. To say this movie is a spectacle of extraordinary feats of strength and determination with wolves, tigers, bears, snakes, and fighting with swords and arrows and motorcycles would be an understatement. And this is all done with less than half the budget of a typical Marvel movie. I believe it was somewhere around $70 million. As soon as I finished this movie, I was immediately texting friends like,
Yo, you've got to see this.
Right.
these are two real-life men in Indian culture that never actually met in reality, but this just shows a hyper-exaggerated story of what could have happened had they actually met. Think Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter or something. I don't know, we don't really exactly have anything quite like this in American culture. It's absolutely insane and a joy to behold. The emotions involved in this film left quite an impact as well. There's betrayals and redemptions that all make it such a worthwhile watch, even beyond watching Raju fight a mob of 200 people by himself, or Bahim attack a British home with a truck full of wild animals. I think you guys could spend an entire show reviewing this one movie, not just because it's so epic, but also because you wouldn't have time to watch a second movie anyway. I give RRR a straight A, and I suggest you spend a day or two watching it yourselves. Okay, that's enough for this week. God, Why did I talk for so long?
That kid's got some problems.
So I'm going to get going, but make sure you all tune in to Outside the Cinema next week when Bill sees a dumpster behind McDonald's on fire.
Like I said, I was immediately reminded of Scott.
Then Bill accidentally finds my account on onlyfeet.com.
Hey, that's kind of weird.
Then he accidentally subscribes to my account on onlyfeet.com.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah.
And finally, Chris lays some ground rules for future live shows on Twitch.
Kissing's fine, but no insertion.
All that and so much more kissing without insertion. But until then, peace and love, guys. Outside the cinema.
It was not raunchy. What's the word? Sleazy. That's a given.
Okay.
But it
we
was
knew that.
sad. It was just a melancholy, depressing bunch of people. They were all down. There's just a lot of naked people around.
Yeah.
And then it's overload, and it's like it's too much. And then all those people are just depressed.
Oh, fucking piss a dude. Definitely.
There you have it. Scott did immediately text me after watching that movie. He was like, "You guys got to cover this." And I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, 3 hours and 26 minutes? Not anytime soon, bro." Sorry. Thank you very much to Vishnu for programming the show this week and for being a Patreon member. If you too would like to program a show, head over to patreon.com/outsidethecinema. Join up for $5 a month, and you can get access to all the stuff that these cool dudes get. I don't know what we're doing next week. We still have a few more to try to get through. And, Donnie did respond and say that he wanted us to do the original version of Nosferatu. So we'll do that next week, and we'll figure out what to pair it with.
All right.
That's pretty much all we got, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Chris, you got anything you want to add in the next 15 seconds?
No.
All right, then. Thanks for hanging out.
No, I'm kidding.
That's, right. Everyone have a good week.
Bye.